got one more question about actually building the business. So I'm often quite interested. You hear that you're supposed to work on the business, not in the business, which I'm not really sure how that works when you're building it in the early stages. But what was your relationship between working in the business or actually on the business?
Yeah. I also agree with you. I hear this all the time. And I think young new starter entrepreneurs keep saying they want to work on it, not in it. Again, maybe unpopular opinion, I think for the first few years, you need to be in it because you're the one that's got the drive. You're the special one. You're the one that has the intelligence, the thought process. You're building systems and processes for the future. And only you can do that. It's such an important time. It's like bringing up a child. Those first few years, it really matters the relationship that you have with them. And then as you they get older and they don't need you as much, then you can start to step out and work on the business. Now, I didn't work on the business probably until about 8 years in. So we got 8 years in. We were maybe 40 million turnover, that sort of level. And then we knew that we were going to go to an exit point where we'd have private equity investment at the end, which is when we got to this $100 million situation. So that is when we went out and hired a new C-suite team that was going to take the business from where it was to an exit point. Because from investors' perspective, what they don't like is turning up. There's a founder that's still running everything. And the founder's saying, well, I want to go. And the investors are saying, well, I'll give you, dozens of millions of pounds, but you need to stay because it's too much of a risk if you leave the business. So I don't have a popular opinion. I don't agree with what most of the podcasts say on this. I think you work in the business until you are ready to take a step out and maybe look at a proper exit for yourself. But the key then is hire people that are almost as good as you, because no one's as good as you are because you're the entrepreneur and the founder and believe whatever you like. But you need to make sure you have a brilliant team that when the new investors come in, they are comfortable, confident, and happy that that team is going to take the business forward without you in it. After I stepped back from being CEO, I then became a non-exec and vice chair for the business. And my role really became about an ambassadorial, networking role. So I just went back out there just to make sure that everyone could hear the story. They knew how successful Pareto was and what we were trying to do. I worked on trying to raise investment. I worked on M&A activity. So we bought a business just before we sold and bought one afterwards as well. So that was when it changed for me. But work. No one is going to do it as well as you. Certainly not from the very beginning. Put your ass into it and just get on with it and stop listening to all of the people online telling you not to work that hard on it. That's
good to hear a different narrative, because you always hear on LinkedIn, you've got to work on the business. But how can you work on the business if you don't know every in and out of actually working inside the business?
Well, you need to build it first. You can't. Look, if you're a multimillionaire and you're just investing in stuff, that's a different story. But if you're starting in a bedroom with nothing and no money, then you're going to have to do everything yourself. And if you're ever in a privileged enough position to take a step back and bring other people in, that's fantastic news. But you need to get there first. What you don't want, and this is, look, 80% of new businesses fail, by the way. So let's not forget that. Starting a business isn't an easy thing. If you are a year in and you think, I've been working too hard on this, I'm going to take a step back and work on the business rather than in the business, I actually think that's a recipe for failure. I think you need to work until it's in a really good size relative to the market that you're in, and then step back only when the time is right. But don't try and get there too early. This is what I mean about sacrifice. Give yourself 5 years that you're just going to throw yourself into this and you're going to say no to the other things that you want to do and see what happens. And then give yourself the good chance. But like I said, 4 and 5 times it fails. So you just need to have that backup plan. And again, just another piece of advice. When I was starting up, I was always confident that I would go and start this business. And if it didn't work out, I would just go and get a job in the workplace sector like I did before. And I'd have learned so much in the couple of years that I was trying to run the business. Luckily for me, it worked out. But I had absolute confidence that I'd go and get $100,000 a year role as a director in a big business if it all failed. And if I lost my house and my marriage and all my relationships and I had to go back to my mum's house and start all over again, I was willing to do that. That was what was on the line for me. But luckily it worked out and I didn't have to go and work for one of the big corporates and hate my life for the rest of eternity. So